Coming to you from the top of Tim McLoone Supper Club in Asbury Park, New Jersey. Welcome to the Tim McLoone Radio Show, where each week we bring you interesting, creative, and dynamic people from the worlds of entertainment, sports, business, food, and philanthropy. Today's guests are singer, songwriter, and entertainer Bruce Foster, and NFL four-time Pro Bowler, Super Bowl champion, and the founder of the Foundation to Save the Jersey Shore, Phil Villapiano. I'm Paul Diamede, and here's your host, Tim McLoone.
Oh, boy. Well, thank you all for being here in Asbury Park, high atop our building here. It's a darn good thing this is radio because I'm dressed like a slob. I was down in Maryland yesterday and this morning, and then we drove back. We were down at our restaurant down there at National Harbor, which is open 7 days and nights. Also has a lovely brunch. But but I would never just proselytize for one of our businesses here, because here we are in Asbury at our other restaurant that also happens to have a nice Sunday brunch. But then I drove directly to a track meet because I still coach high school track at Rumson Fairhaven High School in New Jersey. And so there are the three people who care about that. And then I drove here, and I have to admit I'm in like dirty jeans and a T-shirt and whatever. But it is radio, so we're good. But thank you all for being here. And, don't you find in life as you go through that my dad passed away basically about 10 years ago at the age of 86. And if you knew Joe McLoone, my father had an outrageous sense of humor. And I remember when it was really getting down to the last couple of days, and he was in a bed, in the hallway, like down in the when you first walked into the house. And it was a hospice situation, and we're all standing around him talking about him. And he died at 86, and what a good long run he'd had, and what a great life. And we're kind of talking like he's not in the room, and finally my father pipes up and he says, would it be a really huge inconvenience if I hung around for a couple more weeks here? You people seem to have your plans already squared away. But isn't it the truth that, you always miss your parents, and but there's certain times more than others. I feel like my dad, believe me, if any of you think I'm even remotely funny or clever or anything, you should have met my dad. I mean, my father was the deal. And I was the unfortunate product of that. But my father would have loved going to see the movie 42. And if you haven't seen it, you should go see it. I don't work for them. I don't even have a job, I don't think. But it's about Jackie Robinson. And my first baseball game, I'm unfortunately old enough. I always wished I was born in 1948. I would so much have rather been born in 1950. Just a different decade. I mean, when you're people that say 48, was that World War II? But at any rate, I went to Ebbets Field with my dad for my first baseball game. He lived on Flatbush Avenue in Brooklyn, and we went to Ebbets Field, and as I believe I was either 4 or 5 years old, I do know Don Newcomb, who was an African-American ball player, I think actually the first African-American pitcher, because there was still, not unlike in the NFL, where there was the feeling that, black men couldn't play quarterback. Well, they can't pitch either, Satchel Paige was just an outlier. But going to Ebbets Field was an amazing thing. They were playing the Phillies. I know Robin Roberts, who ended up in the Hall of Fame, was pitching for Philadelphia. The ironic part is I have no idea who won or lost, which is so not like me. But I just remember we went there on the subway, and this whole thing was so overwhelming. But people should go see 42. A lot of the criticism I hear about is what they said about Lincoln. They're not unrelated movies, actually. Right. In that it's very wordy, and it was fantastic. And particularly children should see this. So I was talking to my track team the next day, and I said, have any of you seen 42? No, everybody has seen Iron Man 3, but no one had seen 42. Right. And I said, you have to go. It's part of our American history. It's a horrible part of our American history. I mean, they just eviscerate this guy, Ben Chapman, in it, but he deserved it. And Dixie Walker, who was ironically known he was very popular with the Brooklyn fans. He was from the Deep South, and he was known as the People's Church. I always remember that nickname. But he was horrible to Jackie Robinson. And then there's that, the iconic scene with Pee Wee Reese, who's the Kentucky Colonel, and this whole thing. You have to go and see this. And it's an important part of our history, and people have to know this. Having said all that, though, I was disturbed at the theater because they didn't have Milk Duds. They're trying to throw off my entire way I do things. I'm with my boys. They're getting fruit punch, which is their way of not having me take sips of their drink because they know I don't like fruit punch. So that goes away. And then they don't have Milk Duds. What kind of a movie theater is this? Of course, what I did get, I got, what do you call them? Well, in French, they're nonpareils, but what do they call those guys?
Nonpareils? Yeah.
Nonpareils. Well, I took French for 3 years at Seton Hall Prep. Come on now. But there's another. Anyway, I got those. They were like $15, but they were really good. But then, speaking of sweets, so the other day we're at a meeting of Holiday Express, and the big thing at the meeting of Holiday Express is that our executive, our charity and stuff, that Donald Pignataro always brings the Malamars. And there were no Malamars. And we're like, now what's going on? I didn't get Milk Duds yesterday. I mean, I sound like I have a horrible diet, but there's no Malamars. And he said they're only made seasonally. Did you know that? Malamars, you can't get them. They don't sell them in the summer. He went to the Acme, and they didn't have Malamars. And I have no idea what the reason would be, but they take a break from making Malamars. And did you know that they were invented in Hoboken? I knew about Frank Sinatra, but that's nice. But Malamars is much more important. And they don't sell them at that time. And this is the kind of stuff I bring all of you.
And I'm just marveling at your ability to segue from 42 to
from
Malamars.
Jackie Robinson to Malamars.
It's a treat every week, Tim, I got to tell you.
But so it made me think about my other lost cookies, which were Fig Newtons. I mean, Nabisco still makes them, but it was the Sunshine Fig Newtons, which were in a double row with the plastic wrapper top. You could see them.
They don't make them anymore?
I haven't seen them in years, and they were the best because they were stale. I can't explain why I liked it, but I really like, if I have Nabisco Fig Newtons, I like to leave them out. And they taste
Oh, because they get a little crunchy.
There's a woman here
outside.
nodding in agreement with me, so someone else has the same problems I do. But anyway, I was thinking about, it's like the different certain cookies. It's like I love Chips Ahoy.
Right.
But I don't like some of the other chocolate chip cookie pretenders. I just don't like the ones who pretend to be Chips Ahoy cookies.
Now, you eat Girl Scout cookies, right? I've seen them around.
Now this is bad. This is another topic. We apparently have a lot of them. And I've actually dropped a lot of weight over the last month or 2 months, and I believe part of it is because my wife was actually hiding the Girl Scout cookies because they're always around, but just not the entire mother load that came there apparently a couple of months ago.
Just a couple of cookies laying
Yeah, every once in a while a box will show up, and then I try to take the Thin Mints and put them in the freezer, which gives me away immediately. But I don't know. Mercifully, they don't make. We seem to buy the ones that I don't like, so that's good. But we decided in our little world of 6 Degrees of Tim McLoone that I would perform a song for all of you at each of these alleged shows. And keep in mind as I do this that none of you paid to get in here. So please, let's at least keep that in the back of our minds. Okay, it's a free show. And but I was thinking about my dad, and it brought me to mind about this song. My father, when I was running track for Seton Hall Prep in the depressingly early 60s, because I was born in 1948, I was struggling a little bit with the half mile, and my father said to me, we were going over the New York City, the Armory, the 168th Street Armory, which is a beautiful palace for running now. But anyway, in those days, we just ran on the Armory floor, and it was crazy. It was just a slick wooden floor, and you better not take that turn too hard. But he said if I broke 2:02 for the half-mile run, 880 yards, that he would buy me any record album that I wanted. So I swear to you, I ran 201.999, and we went back to South Orange, where we lived, and we went to the Village Record Store, and I bought Ray Charles's Country Western Hits, and this was my favorite song on that album. You give your hand to me, then you say hello, and I can hardly speak. They're applauding for Ray Charles. And I can really feel it so, cause anyone can tell. You think you know me well, but you don't know me. No, you don't know the one who dreams of you at night and longs to kiss your lips and longs to hold you tight. To you I'm just a friend, that's all I've ever been. Well, you don't know me. For I never knew the art of making love, though my heart aches with love for you. Afraid I'm shy, I let my chance go by. Chance you might love me too. You give your hand to me, then you say goodbye. I'll watch you walk away beside that lucky guy to never, never know the one who loves you so. Well, you don't know me.
Broadcasting from Tim McLoone Supper Club in Asbury Park, New Jersey. Listen to us every Saturday at 5 p.m. on WOR 710 a.m. Follow us on Facebook and on Twitter at Tim McLoone Radio, and listen to this show as well as past shows on our website, timmcloonradioshow.com. You're listening to the Tim McLoone Radio Show. Next up, Phil Villapiano. We'll be back right after this. Welcome back to the Tim McLoone Radio Show from Tim McLoone Supper Club in Asbury Park, New Jersey. And now, here's your host, Tim McLoone.
Thank you again, Paul. Thanks, everybody, for being here in Asbury Park. And I have to admit, in yet another moment of shameful self-promotion, I'll be playing tonight at the Supper Club with the Shirleys. And the Shirleys are doing girl group, all-night girl group. So you're going to hear all that Darlene Love stuff and the Ronettes and all the rest of it.
Sounds like fun.
But we're really excited to have our next guest here, Phil Villapiano. God love you. Welcome aboard. Thanks for being here with us.
Thank you. Thank you. Thank you, Tim.
You know.
And you sound so good.
Well, thank you. That's why we asked you here to say good things about me.
You
want to try it?
Sing that again. That
was don't know me. Go ahead, Phil. give it a try.
I don't know the words, but I liked it.
Well, I didn't know part of the words either, but we're not going to tell everybody that. I have to say to you, the first thing is you played linebacker at 6'2", 220. Were they beating the heck out of you?
I am so beat up, Tim. It's terrible. I got a kid now.
You're not allowed to carry the towels out at 220 now.
Oh, I know. It was a crazy time, but I just hit it right. Yeah. I faked it for a few years, and then
well, it was more than
I got out.
And you had that little Super Bowl ring thing happen.
Got one. Not
too shabby.
Yeah.
But were you undersized for your position then, or is that something that's happened over the years that they're just getting bigger?
Kind of. It was nutty, great timing for me. But the linebackers before the 70s, I'm a 49 guy, so I understand where you're coming from.
I'm the oldest person up here. I hate that.
But anyway, I get
and
drafted.
You look a lot better, and you got hair too. It's all good. I'm struggling, It's like keep the hat on, Tim.
So anyway, so I get in the NFL, and that's right when the running backs were running these patterns, and they had those giant linebackers that couldn't run, so they needed some medium-sized type linebackers, and bingo. It was perfect timing. I could run, I could cover, and I could take a hit. But, my God, the guys weren't all 300 pounds in those days, so thank God.
It's just amazing. So, but you came out of Bowling Green College, not exactly at the football hotbed at the time.
Yeah, but I did come out of Asbury Park.
Which is much more.
There we go.
Well, there is that Asbury Park to Bowling Green pipeline that's been going on for decades.
There's something about the Jersey Shore that makes you play good football, I think.
Well, where were you born?
I was born in...
Right here?
Right here, 3rd Avenue. 2 avenues over. This place, the convention hall, a million times. I could sneak in that place. I could sneak in the Monte Carlo pool. I had it all down, man. The 7th Avenue pool over here. Man, me and my boys, this was the greatest town to grow up in the whole world. I remember the people be lined up Asbury Avenue out to the circle to come here on a weekend to be part of Asbury Park. It was just the best place.
Well, when I was at Seton Hall Prep, this was where we had our senior class trip.
There you go.
And that's in South Orange, so we get in the bus and drive down here for an hour. It's raining, It's May. It's like it's been lately, it's like 43 degrees. Ooh, Asbury Park,
Yeah. Well, how about the Berkeley Carteret, the conventional? What a 1-2 punch we had,
Yeah.
It was just perfect around here.
Well, there's a renaissance happening. We've talked a lot about it. I think it wasn't this past summer. It was the summer before that was the turnaround. When you looked out the door here, and if the day was even decent, Boardwalk was packed.
Yeah,
and what we were talking about this last week, but what I love about Asbury is that there's no demographic here. It's everybody. You couldn't possibly say who that is walking on the boardwalk.
It's the most diverse
And what everybody should know, too, is it's damn safe.
Mm-hmm. Yep.
It's safe here. We haven't had any. We've been here now we're closing, I guess, on 5 years.
5 or 6 years.
And and I paid my rent most of the time. And I think that's a good gesture on our part, you know.
Well, Tim, you and the Jersey Shore are one, and I was so happy when you took this place in Asbury Park.
Well,
we needed you here in Asbury Park. Great job.
Well, tell everyone you know. Matter of fact, when the show's over, you could start making some calls. I like that. But see, I'm a Benny, though.
A few weeks ago, I saw the British Invasion right here. I loved it.
You did come?
They were fantastic.
That's a fun show.
Yeah, but you don't come see my band, though, do you? Come on.
It keeps going.
He has not come to see my band in like 28 years. So it's okay. But you got that.
The last time I caught you was at McLoone's in Long Branch. You and the boys was at my nephew's wedding. You were playing.
Well, that's true.
It was a beautiful night.
That was the big. This was ridiculous when you called us. And first of all, thank you very much for doing that. And I think you paid the bill. I think the bill.
I think they did.
I think somebody paid the bill. That was the largest thing we'd ever done up there. We figured that room was good for maybe 220, 240. They had like 273.
There wasn't enough chairs. But who cared? Until there was more people at the bar.
It was unbelievable. No, I made sure I wasn't there. I came up, I said hello, and I got the heck out of the building. Who knew it was going to happen? But, you know, one of the reasons that you and I keep banging into each other is, and I know you're very humble about this stuff. You're not humble about much, Phil, but you are very humble about – no, that's not true. You're very humble about all your work in charities. I just think it's been extraordinary. That's how I meet you.
Yeah.
You know, and the different stuff you've done, particularly the one that always touches us, you know, the Muscular Dystrophy Association.
Yeah.
You know, that's where I really first got to know you, just not as a, you know, a football icon and a guy from the shore, but your Field of Hope event. So tell everybody about that.
Yeah, well, thank you, Tim. And you played there many times. Tim used to come and play for nothing, bring his band.
I was an idiot.
Fantastic. And that was great. That was great. I used to love to dance. And, you know,
but not enough to come see my band play. Come on, Phil.
Susan, we got to
Let's make a reservation for Phil. Could we put that in the book?
I sit there looking at the door. I sit there every night looking at the door, and I go, "Is Phil coming?" No.
Well, anyway, the ALS events, we've done 16 straight years. We've raised a heck of a lot of money. Terrible disease, just terrible. I had no clue. I was the first time I ever did anything for muscular dystrophy. I'm a rookie, 1971. The firemen right here in Asbury Park called me up and told me to come down. They brought some kids from the Camp Oakhurst down to the fire trucks, and you know I took a liking to all the kids and the muscular dystrophy, and then it grew and grew, and then we split off from muscular dystrophy to ALS.
Right.
That's when Lou Gehrig all of a sudden made it popular, and oh my God, what a horrible disease.
I don't think there's a worse disease on the planet.
It can't.
And the fact that there's been so little progress, and it's an absolute death penalty for someone who gets it. Yep. They pretty much know, to some extent, you know, dear departed Joan Dancy, you know, who we love so much, and she knew when she was diagnosed, well, if it goes really well, I may have 3 or 4 years.
That's terrible.
And it's just a gradual shutdown of all the different, you know, muscular parts of your body, and it's just
especially
horrible.
You know, a guy, you know, that was an athlete. My God, to see what happens to a body, you know, and your brain is fine. It's the craziest thing. I mean, hopefully all this concussion stuff, and I mean, I don't want any part of the dementia or Alzheimer's, but it's just the opposite of the ALS, and so they're both horrible diseases.
If you don't mind my asking you, because you spent some, did you play Pop Warner? Was there Pop? I don't mean to be insulted. There wasn't yet, right?
No Pop Warner in Asbury Park.
But so did you start playing football in high school?
No, I played on the inspection station on 3rd Avenue. We played on the lawn, and we could run into the cement wall. It was worse, you know. But no, we played a lot of football right here in Asbury.
But there's a lot of truthfully horrible statistics about life expectancy for people. Now, maybe you were ahead of the curve on that, playing as early as you did. But I've read now that if you play 4 years of Pop Warner, 4 years of high school, 4 years of college, 4 years in the NFL, your life expectancy is somewhere around 57. That's a horrendous statistic.
It's terrible. And I get the NFL alumni magazines every month, and my God, it used to be like 1 or 2 guys. Now the pages are loaded with guys that died that month. It's scary. It's really, really scary. And I'm so happy to see, you know, our new commissioner, Godell, doing some stuff for the older guys. And like myself, I'm okay. I mean, I got a new shoulder. I got a new knee. I don't know about my brain, but I'm okay versus most of the guys. Yeah. And I'm so happy they're starting to come up with they're making up these new names to give people money, and that's a good thing, because you know, these guys like me, I mean, you wouldn't believe And I laughed so hard when I read that, what's his name, our quarterback, Sanchez, $12,500 if he goes to work out. Are you kidding me? I made $17,000 for the whole year my rookie year. You know, I mean $12,000. Right?
And you were a little overpaid.
Hey, you're right. Hey, Tim, $12,500. Could you imagine he goes and works out 5 days that week? Ain't no bad. You know, he got $60,000. We could spend that, you know. So it's a little nutty nowadays, but hey, don't we all love the NFL? It's fun to watch, and I'm loving the rules. And I had a funny one. I was with John Madden not long ago, and John Madden is part of this safety committee, Goodell's safety committee. And he's the one, he doesn't want anybody hitting with their heads anymore.
Yeah.
I mean, it's terrible, what you could do to a wide receiver, you know, if you're a linebacker, you know, with your helmet. So anyway, I'm so glad they ruled it out. And John asked me, he said, Phil, what do you think about the new rules? I said, John, I love them. He said, you do?
Right.
He says, I thought you would hate him.
Yeah.
I said, no, John, I want this game to go on forever, and I want it to be – it's so nasty anyway.
Well, your boy is playing quarterback
I
for
know,
Brown University. So,
Yeah.
I mean, do you worry for him? I mean, we all worry about our kids. But
Yeah, I worry a little bit, but not too much. I like to see him run some people over and throw the ball. It turns me on, you know. But my wife over there, Susan, worries about Michael. But hey, that's the way it is. You worry about your kids. You don't worry about anybody else's kids. They could get hit all they want. You worry about yours.
See, my parents never had to worry about me playing football. I was so supremely untalented athletically, and I also have the largest coconut head of anyone in America. We go to this store, Bellins, in South Orange. I get a helmet that is practically popping off the top of my head. I can remember playing a little bit, running after a kid, jumping after him, getting nothing but dirt, and getting back in my parents' car and saying, I'm never playing football again. And my parents were like, don't worry, we're never letting you play football again. I found cross country. It was a much
Jim, I watched
experience.
you run. And this guy runs neighborhoods like you can't believe. And I honk at him. That's when I see you the most. I honk at you.
Yeah, and you try to run me off the road. You damn football people just can never lose that impulse to go after the runners.
Exactly. But anyway, it's God. I'm so good to see you. I'm so glad you're in Asbury Park, and look at those people out here. And you do look a little underdressed, but
it's not good.
That's the way new coaches look on the sideline.
As a matter of fact, I don't even know why I'm wearing the jacket. It's sort of stupid of me, you know. I was trying to dress up a little bit, you know. But here's a T-shirt of the running store in the Grove in Shrewsbury, and if you want to go shop there, I'm good with that too.
Wow.
But we are just shameless here. So what are you doing professionally now?
Well, I'm in transportation, which is one of those crazy things. Playing a Super Bowl, and Ben Davidson, one of the greatest guys in America, just died this year. Yeah. And I'm flying home one night where
people should remember him from MASH, from the movie MASH.
Big Ben,
Ben Davidson.
He was in so many good movies. He was a beautiful guy, and I'm sitting next to him one night. I'm a rookie, and he says, Phil, we start talking. He says, every time you meet a guy, get his card. So I started making that I just did that. I would meet a guy, look like a businessman. I would get your card. And I'm playing, that was like 1976. We win the Super Bowl, go to Vegas for a big party and in 77. And I meet this guy and play golf with him for a couple of days.
The party took a year?
Right? Yeah, well, no, it was actually January of 77. Right. So,
I got you.
Yeah, so, it was 3 or 4 months
later.
I'm not trying to pick up. Bottom line, I get the guy's card. Next year, I blow out my knee. I call the guy up. He owns ships. So in 78, I came back to New Jersey. My knee healed fine, and I came back to New Jersey, started running around with the sales guys. So it's 1978. I started in transportation, and I'm still doing it. I would have never written this script, but it works. I'm a salesman. I like to sell,
Well, yeah.
So I have a good time with that.
Going back for a second just to your professional career, so, being part of that whole Oakland Raider mystique, just the craziness coming out of there and the silver and black and all that, what was it like getting traded to Buffalo?
Oh, man.
I shouldn't say that. Were you traded or
No, I was traded.
Yeah.
I was traded, and one of the really fun stories was I came back here. I'm doing this off-season job. I think I'm pretty cool. And I come back. I'm going to the church up there, the red one. What's that? St. Michael's. So I come back with my 2 kids, and we go in the house, and my wife says, Phil, Al's on the phone. It's like 9 o'clock in the morning. I'm like, 6 o'clock in the morning, California. What's he on the phone for?
Oh, Al Davis.
Al Davis.
That's not good.
Not good. You're right. I pick up the phone. Al,
Phil, I just want to see how you're feeling. How's everything going?
That's what he said. How you doing, Phil? And he goes, I said, Al, I'm doing great. He goes, how's the knee? I said, knee is fine. He goes, I got to ask you a question. He goes, you know that guy Bobby Chandler up in Buffalo? I go, yeah. He goes, what do you think of him? Because, you know, Freddie is now gone. Cliff Branch has got a problem. We need a wide receiver. I said, well, Al, I played with him in the Pro Bowl a couple times. The guy can play. Matter of fact, he reminds me of Freddie. I said, man, what do you got to do to get this guy? He says, well, I got to trade you. And I was off to Buffalo. And that was the end of that. So I became a Bill, went up there 4 fun years. A lot of Italians in Buffalo. I was in my 10th year. I don't really care too much. I had a good time.
Just a little chilly there.
Oh, my God. Now they got the indoor field up there. We used to have to go out every day and stand out there for practice and froze. Like my hands. I can't even play golf anymore. It's too cold.
No, you couldn't play golf before either, Phil. It's okay. I heard.
I tried.
I bet you were good, actually.
I tried.
So, listen, with all the charitable work you do, how can people get in touch with any of those organizations that are dearest to you?
The one I'd like to talk about right now, we started something right after Sandy. It's called Save the Jersey Shore. And a friend of mine, Kevin Leahy. Thank you. It's really unbelievable. This only could happen at the shore. And that's why, and I think you people all can feel this. We two or three of us sat down and said, we got to do something. Mm-hmm. I mean, there was so much damage. And I live in Rumson, so you can just go over the bridge. You couldn't even go over the bridge to see Seabright, Monmouth Beach, Oceanport. All these towns are destroyed. So we decided to start a group. And we probably have about 50 people on our committee now, similar to your Express. And we got about 50 good, strong people. Like, I didn't even know 10 of them when we started. And all of these people are working. And we got our 501c3 about January, because the storm was in October, right? And since then, I bet we've raised a couple $100,000. We just got the Garden State Arts Center for a big concert. Tim, you might have to come up and play that day.
Not if you don't come see me first.
I'll come see you first. And then we got a nice golf tournament we're going to do at a Trump. And we're going to raise a lot of money, and we're going to keep doing it until this thing's over with. And there's a long ways to go. And it's just, that's my passion right now, is help the people and keep this area the way it always was. You know, and hey, the ocean may be a little nuts right now, but you know, we keep everybody here and keep it, the diversity. I remember I went to Bowling Green. I went to Lily White Bowling Green. And one of my football guys said, Phil, how do you know everybody on the team, that they're Irish, that they're Italian, that they're Mexican? I said, you got to grow up in Asbury Park. You know everybody, you know? So I want this area to stay the same forever.
So is there a website they can find?
Yeah, there is. SaveTheJerseyShore.org. Pretty easy. SaveTheJerseyShore.org. You see my picture, and, you know.
Phil, I have a restaurant in Seabright I can sell you, actually. I'll be in touch later. Phil Villapiano, ladies and gentlemen. Thanks so much, Phil.
For those of you who just joined us, you're listening to the Tim McLoone Radio Show from Tim McLoone Supper Club in Asbury Park. We will be right back after this. Welcome back to the Tim McLoone Radio Show, broadcasting to you from Tim McLoone Supper Club in Asbury Park, New Jersey. And now, here's your host, Tim McLoone.
He's here? He's here.
There he is.
All dressed up. You know, the people at home can't see that I'm wearing a tuxedo right now. So this is the dangerous segment that we do each week, which is when we ask people who probably have an axe to grind against me to ask any question they want. Where's the check is what usually leads it out. But we have a question to ask her right now. And your name is?
My name's Susan.
Hi, Susan.
Hi,
and where
Susan.
are you from?
I live in Rumson, but I'm from Chicago.
Well, I can't help everything that happens to you. I'm sure there's a good reason that took place. And what would be your question?
My question is, of all your experiences with Holiday Express, would you share one of your favorite memories with us?
Oh, really? Well, that's awfully nice. You know, I have to say, you know, at the risk of getting maudlin about it in a sense, because of things that have happened in our world recently, was our experience out of Columbine. After the shootings there, it's ironic that you're from Rumson, because at the time I lived in Rumson, and I was running right past Holy Cross Church, and it occurred to me that we should go to Columbine, Holiday Express, that is. And it's our charitable group that normally plays roughly between Thanksgiving and Christmas Eve, and we go to places that if we're not there, they get little or no attention during the holiday time. So we're mostly at AIDS hospices and soup kitchens and things like that. But our other thing is that if the need is so great, we're also willing to go. And we got in touch with the people out there through some intermediaries, and we ended up on December 15th after the shootings, which were in April, doing a tree lighting outside of the school. And there were roughly 10, 11, 12,000 people there. Wow. And it was an extraordinarily moving experience. What was much more upsetting was the evening before, when we were in a small restaurant up in the hills of Colorado with just the school administrators, some teachers, and the parents of the children. And it was so intimidating and so frightening. And it makes us think, of course, of all the people at Newtown, you know, and they're going through exactly the same thing right now, you know, trying to make some sense of a crazy world. There have been many other experiences that I will share a funnier one, which is we were down in Trenton Psychiatric Hospital, and it's just this raucous kind of thing, and we're having a great old time, and this one guy will not give up the microphone. He is just, and we let people sing. We love it when they sing with us. We don't care. And so he's singing every song. He's trying to grab it from me while I'm doing stuff. He's talking to the audience. He's announcing things. He won't stop. And meanwhile, the caregivers, the social workers and the like, are in the back of the room pointing at him. And I just think they're having a great old time. So finally it all ends, and we're packing up, and one of them comes up to me and says, "That was really amazing." I said, "Well, thank you." And they said, "No, you don't understand. That man has never spoken since he's been here. He was a John Doe to them." And they didn't have any idea who he was. And he went back in a room and gave him his information. And it wasn't us per se. It was just, it's truthfully the magic of music sometimes. You know, it just burst open this thing with him. So that's a happier memory, you know. Yeah. But does that conclude the question and answer period, or is someone else foolishly going to step up here? Oh, there's another one. Yeah. You seem to have fans in the audience, young lady. And what would your name be?
Patty.
Hi, Patty.
Hi, Tim.
And where do you live, Patty?
I live in Rumson.
Or what is this?
It's a Rumson brigade.
Yeah, all right. Yeah. What do you got for me?
Well, first I want to thank you for all of your shows. I run a nonprofit, and you've done Holiday Express shows for us for many, many, many years.
And I make fun of you at every one of those.
You do make fun of me.
I make you sing with the band.
You make me dress up as Santa Claus. You really embarrass me. But so here I am doing it. No. Susan and I actually have very similar questions for a Renaissance man like yourself.
Oh, geez.
A successful man.
I keep telling you, I'm more like a Reformation kind of guy. I'm not a Renaissance guy.
In so many ways. What is your proudest moment?
Really?
Yes.
Oh, that's rough, because I immediately have to think if my family's going to listen to this, and I better be mentioning weddings and births of child and all those good things. If I take away all the personal stuff, well, I have to say that it's almost like a Forrest Gump kind of experience overall, to think that, truthfully, all these wonderful people, we in Holiday Express, we have about 250 adult volunteers. And we have literally about 500 or 600 children who pack gift bags for the roughly 15,000 people we see each year. And we'll probably be arrested for child labor violations on at some point for that. And we have over 100 professional musicians, some of whom are in the audience right now, who follow us on this journey and are willing to do it. This year we're going to do 65 events in about 38 days. And it's crazy. It makes no sense. And we have people who take their vacation time during December so they can do Holiday Express events. And we have many people of extraordinarily modest means themselves who dedicate themselves to this. And I think that just the fact that they kind of followed me down that road, you know, and I try. It's so many people now, I almost don't know what's going on with it. Actually, they would say almost. As I said last year, I'm back in the band. In the beginning, I was like, I would literally call every musician and every volunteer every week and say, okay, we're going to, this is when we had like 15 events. And I would call them all, and I'd arrange the thing. I would pretty much do the whole deal. And then other people came in, and now I'm just back in the band playing the piano. So I'd have to say it was kind of the growth of Holiday Express and what it all became. Because if I mentioned when the Rumson Fairhaven High School girls cross country team won the Meet of Champions 2 years ago, that would seem a little shallow of me. But that was the other big one. Thanks, Patty.
You're listening to the Tim McLoone Radio Show from Tim McLoone Supper Club in Asbury Park. We'll be right back after this. And now, here's your host, Tim McLoone.
That would be me, with my favorite musician friend. That's Bruce Foster on guitar. Hey, Bruce, thanks for coming on with us.
Welcome, Bruce.
My extreme pleasure.
I always like to point out that you are a Grammy Award nominee, but when I feel badly about the fact that I was never a Grammy Award nominee, I point out the fact that you were a nominee, not a Grammy Award winner. It just makes me feel slightly better about myself. What song were you nominated for?
It was called Look Out for Number One, and it was in the movie called Staying Alive. That was the sequel to Saturday Night Fever.
That's a bad sign, I think.
Yeah, already.
Yeah.
Yes. A sequel to Saturday Night Fever is already like, you know,
but I remember actually seeing your name on the credits for that. I thought that was very cool.
I had a big kick out of it.
But I have to tell people how we met because it's so bizarre in a way. So we buy the Rum Runner in Seabright, which I'm going to try to sell to Phil Villapiano right after the show's over, since half of it's currently sitting in the Shrewsbury River, and which is the half I want to sell you, by the way, Phil. The other part, I'm keeping that. But anyway, so we're going to do this thing, and we're going to do Piano Bar, and we're going to do this. And I had been hearing for like 15 years about you, and it always aggravated me. People would say to me, you know, you're pretty good. I'd be playing Piano Bar someplace. Like, you're pretty good, but you got to hear this guy, Bruce Foster. So I immediately hated you from a distance.
And mutually,
yeah,
I
and
was
you
hearing
hated
the
me.
same thing. People were saying, you know, you're pretty good, but have you ever heard Tim McLoone?
So
And I would like,
those
who
were
is this
such
guy?
mean people. You think it was Phil Villapiano doing that, I think. But although no, that wouldn't have been him because he didn't come see me, so he would have just seen you. But Phil, I just never let it go. You know, it's an Irish thing. You know, but actually, I think it's an Italian thing. I'm not sure now.
Both.
But at any rate, so when we bought this place and we're going to get piano bar players, you were the first person I looked for because I'm figuring if he's so damn good, he might as well play on our place. And the ironic part was you sit down, or you're playing guitar, and I'm in the audience watching you, and I was absolutely compelled to come up and play piano with you. And it was like we'd been playing together all our lives. And I'm not kidding. We instantly fell into the thing. And it was just amazing. Hey, do me a favor. Play a little bit of the Elvis thing right now. Let's not wait. Just
which
do
one?
Of the Elvis song. You know.
Oh.
So this is what's going on. We haven't rehearsed or anything like that. And all of a sudden, and I'm just playing with Bruce.
A very old friend stopped by today.
It's like we always did it.
He was telling everyone in town of the love that he just found. Aunt Marie's the name of his latest flame.
And that's kind of what happened.
Yeah.
That's funny.
We couldn't help ourselves, But Bruce, you had such an amazing career even before I met you, and since. You've been writing songs for a long, long time. And, we had John Tropez on here as a guest last week, the ultimate sideman guitar guy. And for you to try and make a living, send your kids to school, fully supporting yourself as a musician, how the heck did you get away with it? That's what I want to know. How did you do it?
I think it was really when they say beg, borrow, and steal to put 3 kids through 16 years of college collectively. It was literally, that's what I did.
My daughter had the good grace to graduate in 4. She said the 2 greatest things you could hear. She said, I don't want to go to graduate school and I have a job. That was fabulous.
Yeah, it was really hard. And I want to thank Tim McLoone for being my main employer at least a couple nights out of the week.
And we paid you most of the time. Most of the time. I mean, I think the bar was fairly low. We paid most of the time. But Bruce, your song, I'm teasing you about, your Grammy Award nomination, but that was fantastic. And you've co-written for years with someone who we all know very well from New Jersey, Richie Sambora.
Richie Sambora, yeah. I was doing a gig. I have to tell the story because it's so great. How I met Richie Sambora. I was at a gig up in East Brunswick, and the first table was right about where any of these first tables are. Richie was there with a couple of his friends who were in their first semester at Keene University College, whatever it was.
Yeah.
And
my wife graduated from there, so be careful.
Oh, okay. And
You're treading on dangerous
it's a university
territory.
then. It's a university. And I needed my bass player had food poisoning and was on his way to the hospital. So I said,
he hadn't been eating at one of our places, though, right?
No,
it wasn't one of ours.
No, thank God, no, it was not one of yours. And Richie came up and jammed, and on the bass, he had never even held a bass before, and he was awful. So after a set was over, I liked him so much. He just seemed like such a personable guy. He said, listen, let me redeem myself and bring my guitar back next week. And I said, you know what? Why don't you do that? He came in the next week. We played Kansas City as an opener. Everybody knows that, you know.
What key were you in?
And his rhythm was good. And I said, Richie, take a solo. And I was expecting, right? You know? And instead, he hit the toggle switch on his little Les Paul Custom, and he went, and it sounded like Yo-Yo Ma. And it was just, it sounded like, I mean, it was just a wonderful tone. Before he hit the second note, I turned to him and I said, you're in the band. And that's our famous story. And so I gave him his first job. He was in the band from that moment on.
I loved your band name. What was the band name?
Oh, Shark Frenzy.
Why didn't I think of that?
Well, people said that once we got playing at the end of a gig, we would start improvising, and we were very into the Yardbirds at the time with the rave-up thing they would do. And we would start off with the Beatles song traditionally and turn it into something completely convoluted. And somebody said, you guys are like a bunch of gray sharks in a feeding frenzy up there. So that's how we got our name.
Oh, man. Well, you know, there are no accidents in show business, and people that like to demean the whole Bon Jovi experience, the fact that they're not in the Rock and Roll Hall of Fame, which is just stupid. All they're doing right now is just filling arenas and stadiums all around the world because they're no good. Richie Sambora came into the Rum Runner one night with you and me, and I had actually never been, you know, playing with him before, and it was startling what a tremendous guitar player he is. I had no idea. Yeah. You know, he has the goods. It's just the deal. But the early songwriting, so when did you guys decide to start writing together?
I think the first...
Well, let me put it this way. When did you make him start writing with you?
That was more like it. There were a couple songs that he heard. You know, it's interesting. There was a song, I think the first one we ever did was back in 1979. And I was sitting in my house in Oceanport that I already had. And it was one of the very few times that Richie actually was in town and stopped by to say hello. He wasn't even living around here yet. He drove up from Woodbridge, where he still was with his parents, and just stopped by. And I was in the middle of this song called The Answer. And he said, wow, that's great. And I said, well, sit and let's write it. And we developed it for about an hour at that time. He had to leave. I had to leave and go to a gig. And 10 years later, he called me from England. Now he's famous. He's in Bon Jovi. They're on their third tour. And he said, hey, man, it's like, you know, it's like 3 a.m. here in England. And I was thinking about that song, The Answer. And I said, yeah. He says, well, I'm getting ready to do my first solo album, and I want to put that on it. So when he came home, he was now renting a house. He now had bought a house in Rumson, and it was being refurbished. So
the Rumson thing just keeps coming up. It's a very parochial show we're doing here.
So we finished writing that song out on the beach at a house out in the Bluffs that he was renting near Seaside there. Yeah. And we were in this gazebo on the beach, and it was like a Spielberg movie. These low clouds, it was probably the beginning of a tornado, came over us, bubbling and everything. It looked like getting ready. It looked like Moses getting ready to part the Red Sea.
Bruce was being so dramatic there that he kind of backed off the microphone to let everyone in the studio audience
hear. I was in another room.
Back in.
Yeah.
And we finished the song The Answer with this like bubbling, you know, sky over us. And it was really cool. It was like, you know, this cosmic thing going on.
Well, I think the highs and lows for you, because you had to have it so teed up and ready to go, because Tom Cruise does Top Gun, right? And so this is just this iconic movie that people still talk about. So they say, this movie is so great. We love Tom Cruise so much on an airplane. Wouldn't it be great if we put him in a race car? So the next movie that comes, and let's get a really good actor, because we don't want to be seen as, you know, doing some schlocky thing here. So Robert Duvall will play the manager of his racing team, and it's going to be cars and women. And Bruce, we want you to write the title song. And so Bruce writes the song for Days of Thunder, and no one goes to the movies to see it. It's unbelievable. And I saw it, and I see your name come up again. And it was fantastic because you got that spot. But it's just the highs and lows of being a songwriter have to be very tough to deal with for you.
Absolutely, and it was considered such a major movie.
And Cher sang it, right?
But even it made like $200 million, and it was considered a flop that year because that's one of the big, you know, really blockbusters. So it didn't really last that long.
Well, Bruce, you remain one of my favorite performers of all time. Could you give us a little piece of a song I know you've written recently about Asbury Park called Ghost Town?
Now to sing the chorus of this. How do you like it so far? It's all ooze.
I like the lyrics so far. Here we go.
Well, it used to feel good just to rock and roll and stay up all night long, blasting the boombox, keeping the beat. Hey man, that's my favorite song. Where we're witnessing a resurrection now among the lost and found. For all the folks didn't lose their faith when the world came crashing down like it did on this ghost town. Ooh, it's in J. Welcome back to the ghost town.
And that's Bruce Stephen Foster with a beautiful new song called Ghost Town. Bruce, thanks for being here with us. We're going to bring you back to another song later.
You're listening to the Tim McLoone Radio Show from Tim McLoone Supper Club in Asbury Park, New Jersey. Welcome back to the Tim McLoone Radio Show, broadcasting to you from Tim McLoone Supper Club in Asbury Park, New Jersey. And now, here's your host, Tim McLoone.
Ah, there you go. So, I am joined by Bruce Foster, of course, who you've already met, but also his niece, right? His niece, Mary D'Arcy, who has been a guest on this show before and played the lead role of Christine on Broadway in Phantom of the Opera, and her fabulous husband. Oh, I'm sorry, I didn't let the applause go to its normal thing, because there's not going to be any applause now. But her husband, Carl German, who has been directing the music for Lion King for how many years? 15 years on Broadway. Talk about a busman's holiday. These are two supremely talented, highly educated, classically trained people who are now going to do this next challenging piece of material with us. Bruce, hit it. Here they go. Little darling, pump, 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 chihuahua, little darling, pump, 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 chihuahua, where, pump, 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 chihuahua, are you? A koopa, 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 winner, pump, pump, chihuahua, is my lover, just to try, pump, 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 chihuahua, to be true. Now this is the most important part of the song. Here it is. Keep it up, kids. My darling, I need you to all my own, to put in mine your little hand. For I know too soon it will be so grand. Please hold my hand. I was wrong, just to try. I love you. Is my lover, just to try. You want to be true. Big finish, here it comes. Don't mess this up. Here it is. Well, thank you. So, Bruce, you have to tell them the piece of trivia about that they'll never guess.
Tom Hanks' father is the lead singer of the Diamonds.
Of that song. That was Tom Hanks' father. So, unfortunately, he couldn't be here with us, or it would have sounded a lot better. Take it away, Paul. Thank you so much, Bruce and Mary and Carl. Thanks.
Thank you, everyone. Thanks for tuning in today and sharing this hour with us. Tune in every Saturday afternoon from 5 p.m. to 6 p.m. right here on WOR 710 AM and on iHeartRadio. Don't forget to follow us on Facebook and on Twitter at Tim McLoone Radio. The accounts and descriptions of this broadcast are the property of McLoone Broadcasting. The retransmission or rebroadcast of any part of the Tim McLoone Radio Show without express written consent
We'll give you permission.
from McLoone
Just
Broadcasting is strictly
We
prohibited.
let anybody do anything.
The executive producer is myself, Paul Diamede. The coordinating producer is Virginia Sanderson. The technical director and associate producer is Dana Noto. Our sound engineers tonight are Tony Lasardo and Thomas Bishop. For Tim McLoone, I'm Paul Diamede, and we will see you next week on the radio.